Hello everybody, we're going to be looking at PHPmyadmin. We're going to be looking at creating a database that connects to our system for ordering products, and I'm going to teach you the fundamentals of how to make this server-side scripting unit with some complexity. The problem is the example I've got here is more complex than you need to produce, but I've got it to hand and let's talk about it. What I've got at the minute is obviously XAMPP is running. I've got Apache in MySQL which is running, and if I click on Explorer it will take me to the folder location for XAMPP, which I can see the HT docs which contain the folders and the files that I need for this project. I'm currently in localhost, which is the server is running, and in there I'm in the XAMPP subfolder. So I created a new folder, called it XAMPP, and that contains all of the PHP and HTML documents and CSS and images subfolders that I need to make this project work. So let's talk about it. Quick demo. On the home page, if I were to go to index.php and I refresh the page, notice how it takes me to product search. Okay, that's weird. If I just go to XAMPP and press enter, it'll take me to product search. All I've got going on there is in my index page, which should be the name of your home page, remember, that should be the home page of every website. In there, I have a PHP header that redirects to the product search.php, which makes it so that is obviously the key location that anyone will go to. Really nice little security thing, so no one can see data that they shouldn't be able to see. On the product search, if I search for a product that exists, so if I search for an Air and press submit, I can see that I can buy some AirPods. Their description is really expensive and I have a button to buy them. That button doesn't work, but you can see the ideas there. If I go back and I search for a computer, you can see that it's a computer, it's a powerful computer, and I've got the option to buy it. And we've got some other things that we can search for, which we'll have a look for in a second. But there are products that we can search for. I've also got a login option with a username and a password field, but we'll look at those in a second. And I've also got the ability to create an account. I'm going to create an account quickly. That's just going to use some nonsense data. Let's go with Frank Timmy with a password of 123 for extra security. I'm going to confirm my password as just 123, which is clearly wrong. Notice what happens when I click out. I get a validation error saying please make sure your passwords match. That's a nice bit of gubbins to make sure that works as expected. And I'm just going to make a quick email nonsense. What can I go for? Email of ftimmy@gmail.com. If I submit that, I don't get any confirmations, but if I go into the database by going to localhost/phpmyadmin, obviously you get into your database. I've got a users table, a products table, and an admins table, which is redundant, but I don't want to delete it in case it breaks anything. So if I go into my users table, we can now see that we have a bunch of information sitting in here, some nonsense data, and you can see Frank Timmy, who we just created, with the user ID of 1, a password of 1234, and whether they are an admin or not. Notice that David Day is the only admin. They've got a boolean there which is set up to 1. If you're unfamiliar with creating your database, remember, or your tables within there, you've got the structure tab. And in the structure tab, you can create new tables, you can change them, you can drop them, which means delete. Remember, drop is a dangerous button to press because it's gone forever if you press drop. And other fields as well, but ultimately those are the tables that are in there at the minute. Those are the fields, I should say. If I go to the products table, you can see there's some products in there, along with the incomplete images folder because I never finished it. If I go to the structure, all I've got in there is a primary key, which is the product ID, which auto increments, product underscore name, product underscore description, and image. And you can see the types, I've set them up. Yeah. Have some fun looking at that. So the users tables, what we're interested in, we can see that we've created this user, Frank Timmy 1234. If I now try and log in with the username of whatever I just created, I've forgotten how this works. I'm going to try user ID in that field and password 1234. It may be their email address I changed it to. There we go. So using their unique identifier, we've now got a new option. We are logged in as Frank Timmy, and we can still perform our search as we did before, but now we're logged in as a user. The only reason why this is useful, if I now log in as me, with user ID number 1, best number, with my password as password, you can now see that I'm logged in as David Day, and because I've set some cookie data, I'm now in the admin screen, and I'll show you in code in a second how that works. I can now add products, delete products, and modify products. If I add a product, I'm going to add a product which is called Apple Vision Pro. The product description: costs lots of money. There you go, that's added that product. If I go to my products database, hey look, there is the Apple Vision Pro, which costs lots of money. I'm going to delete a product based on the ID number. I'm going to delete ID number 13, lucky for some. If I submit, that will execute, and if I refresh this page, product 13 has been deleted. And if I modify a product, I'm going to modify product number with the ID of 12, and I'm going to change the product noun to be just to upset everybody. There you go. And now we can see if we refresh this, I just deleted that record. Oh well. Number 12 is now the Google Vision Pro, which is much cheaper as its description. So I've got some admin options here to add, delete, modify, and obviously select through the use of the search bar. I've also got a login, logout button that just logs you out. Let's talk about what that is doing. The index page redirects you to product search. This is what product search is doing. It is just including the nav bar. I'll show you what the nav bar looks like if you're interested. That's what nav bar looks like. Feel free to nick the code. And it just includes, it will display a extra box if the user is logged in. So if the cookie is set, and that is the user's cookie, if that is set in any way, it will display that. We'll have a look at what that does in a second. But that's the nav bar, which just gets included. Then we've got an option to display the product search. It will post that data to another page, which is called the product search underscore action, which is this. We'll look at that in a mo. Bit of text on screen. Whether it's required or not, yes, we do want it to be required because I don't want to press submit button if there's nothing to search. So that's what the required field is doing. And then whether it's a submit button or not. We press that button, then the magic happens. This is the product search underscore action, which again includes our nav bar. Displays any head information, so the style sheet data is coming through as well, which I don't think we'd got on here, but we didn't need to. I was trying to display a div which largely breaks if you've got more than one thing. And then here's the PHP. Establish a connection to localhost with the username of root and the password of blank. You guys know this is dumb, but that's the default stuff. Find the CAPOC database. Prepares the query we want to perform. So select everything from the products table where the product underscore name is like. This is a different keyword. It replaces the equals. Equals means exactly match. Like means go find something that has this range of characters in there, which is the search that you're probably going to want to do. Search for something based on a range of stuff. And then you've got these percent symbols. And what that means is based on whatever is posted in from the other form, take that, if it's the word COM, search for everything with a COM in it somewhere in the product name. We could, of course, instead search for the product underscore description. Depends what you wanted it to do, but that's what it does at the minute. Let's just read this carefully. That block I've highlighted, double quote, ends in a double quote. What that is doing is saying, here is a string of text that is doing something. That's something we want in our SQL statement. Everything from the dot to the dot, the dot here means add Also add this to the string. Also add whatever the product is that's being passed through. That's being added. And then notice again at the end I've got 2 more double quotes, which is also adding the % symbol, the end of the single quote. So that's what that is doing. That marries that up and matches it. And then the end double quote ends that bit, which is an additional string at the end, into a complete line. This is, not going to lie, hellishly complicated. Takes practice. And then semicolon at the end of the line to say that you're done. That executes the query based on the connection that we established, passes in the SQL statement that we wrote, and returns the result in this result variable, which is an object. Then I've got a while loop. While the current row that we're cycling through from the result, which row is it? If a result was returned, cycle through the rows and then echo. I want a form because that's going to be important for our button. I want this to be in a box, so I've created a div to do that. Where does the div end? Somewhere? Do I close the div? That may be an error. Okay, but we're echoing out, create a div, output the product name, give us an empty line down, a break, a BR, product description, give us an empty line down, display the corresponding image, if there is one, close the anchor tag. Yeah, I was definitely fiddling with some stuff when I recorded this. I don't think I need that. Put a line down and then put a little button that says buy, close the form. If there are no results, say no products found. That's what that if statement's doing. And then close the connection because that's tidy and nice. That's what you want to be doing. So let's just do that search very quickly. If I search for a Android device, no products have been found because in here I called it Google Vision Pro. So let's search for Google and we can see the Google Vision Pro is returned. I have 2 speakers. I'm going to search for speakers now. And you can see it returns 2. Mangles the display, but you get the idea. I've got speakers and I've got a really nice set of speakers being returned. The login page, let's talk about this. Again, I've broken the login page and the login_action into two different pages. We input the nav bar. We have a bit of text that says user login. Nice bit of text that says user login. And then we post the data when we press the submit button into the login_action page, passes in the user ID, passes in the password field because we've got a user ID and a password field. They are both required using the required keyword. And there's a submit button that says the word submit on it. Would you look at that? If I press submit, please fill this field in because it's required. So if I'm person number 1 with password, remember that's my login for the admin account. If I press submit, I'm now logged in. So this is the login_action page. I won't talk through all of this, but you could pause it if you really want to. You can see you've got localhost. You're establishing the connection in exactly the same way. You are queuing up an SQL statement. This time it is a select statement, well, just like we were doing before actually. Select everything from users where the user ID is whatever they typed in. Execute that query. If there was something for that user, there's a bit of complexity going on here, but for each user returned that matched that user ID, see if the password for that user in the database matches the password that was typed in the text field. Let me say that again because that's important. That is for each person that is returned. There should only be one, but for each person that's returned, the password in their database, that's what $row is doing, does that exactly match the password that was put in the text field on the previous page? If it is, I just echo a thing that says logged in. That's largely an overhang from some testing I was doing. That doesn't do anything. And I've also got some cookie data. You don't need cookies in your program, but while we're here, may as well talk about them. Cookies are small pieces of data stored on the machine. Sets a cookie, sets the user cookie to store the forename and the surname of what was stored, and that keeps that on the machine for a day. And sets whether they're admin or not, and sets that again for a day. So after a day, it will look up that cookie. If that cookie has expired, it won't remember what you're doing. So you can change that to whatever value you wanted if you wanted it to last 3 minutes or something. So if that matched, that's what we're going to go and do. If they are an admin, obviously set the admin cookie. And if they are not an admin, redirect them to the product search. That else statement matches to this if. So if they are successfully logged in, do all of this. If they are not successfully logged in, say they've got the incorrect password, or else incorrect username. And you can choose to fiddle around with this because you may not want to say wrong password, wrong username. That may give too much information for your person. Then close the connection because that's tidy. So using this code, you can redirect to a page if they are an admin, or you can redirect to a page if they are not. And that's what those 2 lines are doing there. Let's add, delete, modify, and I'll let you figure this out largely yourself. Admin, add product. Again, this is just a form for adding a product like we've done before. You've got a text field for the product name, the product description, and where it should take you to when they press the submit button. Takes you to the admin_add_product_action page. And that's what this looks like, admin_action. For adding a product, it's a doddle. You know, really easy, genuinely. Establish your connection, which we've done 3 times now. The SQL statement is an insert statement. Insert into the products table the fields of product ID, product name, product description, the values of nothing. I don't want a product ID getting passed in. I want the database to handle that. So null, don't pass in a product ID. Pass in the product name, which is getting passed through from the text field, input field, and then the description of what it is. I'll scroll out so you can see that, hopefully in a single line. There you go. Just be very careful of the single quote. That is just a single quote. There's nothing special about that. That's just one of them, but formatted slightly funny. So that's a single quote using the @ symbol on your keyboard. You know what I mean? Whereas that's a double quote, and that's again a single quote. So just be very mindful of where the dots are. This is not easy. And notice there's a semicolon at the end of the values bit, and there is a semicolon at the end of the SQL statement. So enjoy that. Pause it. Do what you need to do. Execute the query. Echo it just as a message to say it's been successful. Close the connection, and then redirect back to the admin page once it's done all of that. If I don't redirect back to the admin page, you can see some of the notes I've got in here when I was working on it. So that was for adding a product, wasn't it? We're going to add a new product, which is going to be called microphone. And you can see that the add product action gave me the note of successfully added to the database because I've got an echo statement to do that. And then it's not redirecting, it's not taking me back to the admin page because I didn't tell it to. But when you're trying to write this yourself, it's useful to know whether it's worked or not. So I put some debug messages in there for me. What else do we need? Creating a account. Let's have a look at, let's just work through admin delete product and delete product action. Code, PHP, have some fun. Delete from products where products is, well, the product ID. Again, be very mindful. There are double quotes there on purpose. That is not a typo. I don't know why there's 2 there. I don't think that's necessary. May be able to get rid of that, but if it works, it works. Don't knock it out. And then it redirects to the admin page. So there's the delete product action, delete product and delete product action. Modify product and modify product action. There you go. Code, modify product action. Let me zoom out because this is a long line of code. Again, we're establishing connection to the database. We're executing our SQL. Update statements are long-winded. Update the products table, set the product name to whatever the user entered, or the admin did, I should say. Set the product description to whatever the product description was, where products blah blah blah. Okay, that's a horrific line of code. You're going to have a right old game copying that out. But let me just show you how I did it and why there's actually these weird little different single quotes in it. This is how I did it. When you use PHPmyadmin, it's very useful. If I go to the products table and I actually add a new product, so let's go and add a new product in here. It's been a while. How do I add a new product? This shouldn't be hard. Why am I having problems doing this? Okay, we're going to edit anyway. I'm going to go into the edit for test. Why not? Because that's really what I want to show. When you make a change to something, so I'll change its product name to be new test, and I go, notice how it gives you the SQL statement that it executed at the top of PHPmyadmin. That's why in my example I've got different looking single quotes, because I copied and pasted it from here and changed the bits that needed changing. Why can't I figure out how to add something? Why is that hard? This isn't hard. I want to add something. Oh well, I'll figure it out later, I'm sure, usually after I finish recording. But you can see that's how I got the code, and then you can just edit the bits that need editing. Admin login. Admin login action. Have some fun looking at that. And that's just the page for generating the links. So the user can press some buttons and it takes you to different pages. Index we've seen, login, login action, log out. If you're interested here, all that does is it empties the user cookie, sets it to empty, and then resets it. So when I press the logout button, it just purges the cookie and redirects back to the search page. Navbar looks like that. New user looks like that. Remember, you've got to have some code in there that checks validation. There's a bit in here that does that. So when you create your new user, on change it performs the password confirmation, which is a bit of JavaScript, and that is done down here. And you can also see how the pattern is utilized in the email field when the user types them in, which is an example that's on Moodle. And you can see some code that's going on there to perform that function, which is in a script section, which you guys may not have encountered yet. New user action looks like that, which is an insert statement. Product search, I think we've already looked at that. Product search action, we've looked at that already. And then a style.css. Doesn't need Visual Studio to do this, but if you want to copy my formatting exactly, knock yourself out. Please don't.